starting off with the Mishnah. Chovav Amud Aleph. So the Mishnah, Lo yitza Adam ilan samach l'sadeh chaveru. So you don't plant your tree next to your friend's field. Ela im kein harchik mimena arba amos. So you got a distance 4 amos. So based on everything we've done so far, the obvious question is, what happened at 25 amos? I thought you can't have a tree. You have to distance at 25 amos. Why is this 4 amos? And the obvious answer is, so here, the 25 amos is underground on the bore. The bore goes underground. So the roots go 25 amos. The tree doesn't. The roots go, when the roots go underground, they go into the bore. So that's 25 amos from a bore, which is underground. When the roots go, this is just 4 amos to the tree. We don't know why yet, whatever. Basically, the Gemara says it's because of you need the distance in order to do the plowing around the tree. So there's nothing to do with the distance of the other Mishnah. So every tree is 4. And this again, this came up earlier when we did the rocky ground between them. When they have the getter doesn't help, but the rocky ground under it does. You can go right to the getter. The shoroshim come out l'toch shel chavero. So again, I don't have a bore, so you're not being mazik me. So now your shoroshim are coming into my sadeh, but I'm allowed to dig the 3 tefachim kedei shelo Yaakov et machresha. So I think I can keep those roots or whatever trees, whatever comes in up to 3 amos. I think I can keep, but I can, because I am allowed to be markish my field and I'm cutting your tree. That's all mine. So if I'm digging, so that's up to 3 tefachim just for the machresha, for the plowing. But if I am digging a bore or one of these water channels, which goes deeper than 3 tefachim, it'll be 10 tefachim for the siach and the bore, whatever it is, and I can go as much as I want, and any shirashim or trees that are under the ground in my property I can keep. So Tana Abra Amos Shamru Ketei Avodas Kerem. So this is the Marchresha's wise 4 amos is because that's how much I need to do the work. Amar Shmuel Lo Shano Eila Ba'Eretz Yisrael Ava Bavel Shtei Amos. Now this is a strange law without the tam. A wise Bavel get 2 and Israel gets 4. So you have to distance of 2 amos. That's the Baraisa, what's going on there. But our Mishnah says Arba Amos Elelav Kadosh Shmuel Shmamina V'ika. So yeah, we'll learn from there that the teretz of the Baraisa against the Mishnah is that Eretz Yisrael is the Mishnah, and that's 4 amos, and we have 2 amos in Bavel. Rashi says their marchishin is kotzer, so they have a thinner plow. Since it's a thinner plow, it needs less space. Therefore, that's all you have to give it. The ika de ramila mirma. So again, rami is to throw. So we have a stira. So to rami is that you put the 2 things together and we say, look, they don't make sense. Tanan lo yitza adam milan samach l'sedech harelem hem hark menu arba amos. V'hatanya. So this is more of a stira against each other. Shtei amos amar Shmuel lo kasha kam bebavel kam be'eretz Yisrael. But this rami la mirmia comes as a kasha. We put the 2 together. So therefore, Shmuel says lo kasha, whereas before we didn't pose it as a kasha; it was just answered. Now, this is the sugi which you want to do. Rava bar Rav Chanan, have lehanhu dikli ametra de partesa, the Rav Yosef. Okay, so Rav Yosef, he had a partesa, which is a kerem. So he had a kerem, and he had dekel trees. Now, birds would come and they would sit in the decals, in the palm trees. The nachti, and then they would go down from the palm trees into the pardes, into the kerem of Rav Yosef, umafsidei, and he would be mafsid. Amrlei zilkuts, he says, go cut down your decals. Now, at this point, obviously, the obvious question everybody has here is the halacha is al hanizek lacharka ketatzmo. So therefore, how can he get him to cut down his tree? I can even ask him to cut down his trees. So you have to say, like Rabbi Yossi, this is giri delay, which is even worse than the rabbanon. If it's the rabbanon, so then the mazik has to be marchik, but he's not a mazik. He just planted decals in his tree. He's not a mazik. The decals aren't doing the damage. And worse than that, if it's Rabbi Yossi's, therefore it's Giri delay. It's his. So Attack of the Rosh says that yes, it's Giri delay, because he's putting his decals, and for sure those birds are going to get there, and for sure the birds are going to come down, and therefore when you plant decals, you have to plant them at a point at which they're not going to go into the other guy's kerem from your tree. I mean, I think that's a difficult svara, but something's going on here. Amrle vaha archiki. So he says back, I did my distance. I distanced. So I did my dalad amos. That's what our Mishnah says. You have to go dalad amos. Amrle hani milila ilanos. That's for trees. Avala gefanim boin into fei. So that's for trees. You have to distance from trees 4 amos. But by gefanim you need more. Yeah, but he says, but so Rabbi Baruch Hanan, again, he's got the decals. He doesn't want to cut them down. And he said, but Taka says it in the Mishnah, the Gefanim and the Elan. So don't start telling me that I have to be marchik from Geffen, because the Taka says in the Mishnah that I don't. So Rav Yosef says back to him, Hani mili Elan. So 4 amos, that's a tree beside a tree. The Gefanim beside Gefanim. There you only need 4 amos. Aval ilan legefanim bein tefei. You need more for an ilan beside a gefen. Then you need more than 4 amos. So Amar le ana lo kaitzna. I'm not going to cut it down. Damar Rav says hi dikle de toyin kava asr le kamaitza. So once a dekel brings this amount of produce, which is a kav per year, then you can't cut it down. So this is the isser of cutting down trees. Now, seemingly, that should be enough. And then he continues, V'amar Rebbe Chanina, Lo shachiv shachta, don't know what the, shachas, my son. Well, he forgot. So, because Rashi says, Kach Shemo, it's his name. Ela dekat te'ena below zimna. So, the only reason that his son died, so obviously he's a big tzaddik, because there's no other reason for him to die, is because he cut the teina below Zimna before its time. Now, why does he have to bring this as well? So then he finishes, Mar inichale likuts. So then he says to Rav Yosef, okay, so you come and you cut down my decals. You can come into my land and cut down my decals if you want. If you want to do it, then you come and cut it. Now, what on earth is going on? This is first. I don't know if it's firstly, but out of order. This is called a sakana. Right, so he's telling them that it's osir. Alpi din, it's osir to cut them down. Number 1. Number 2, it's a sakana to cut them down. And number 3, go screw yourself, because you do the what? Why is he letting Rav do it? Rav Yosef, if you want to cut, so Rav Papa Havile, this is a different case. So the case ends here, likuts. So why, if it's Osir and a Sakana, is he telling Rav Yosef to do it? And again he said, well, you do whatever you want, but this is a Messiah. It's a Lifnei Iver, whichever way you want to learn that sugya. He's telling Rav Yosef to go do an Aveira and do something that's a Sakana. So here in the Minchas Shloimei, the Mulchach Namik Devreihem, Migamar and Bava Basra, Mar inichale likuts. Afokapta hu atzmas over sham to osra likuts, the gama over belav ayin sham. So he's saying here that you're allowed. There's no din of lifnei iver. If you hold something as osir, so the Rabbi Bar Chana holds that it's osir likuts, but if Rav is saying that it's mutter, so then you can tell someone else what is mutter for you. I hold it's osir, but if you hold it's mutter, so therefore go do it, and that's not called lifnei iver. Therefore, he can tell him to do it. So that opens up a Pesach. That what's going on in the Gemara is that Rav Yosef has opened up this new idea, and he says that ilan gafanim le gafanim. So Rabbi Baruch Hana says that I'm not a mazik. Hakili Daladamos. I did the Daladamos, therefore I'm not a mazik to you. Therefore, I'm not going to cut my tree down. Because Rav says it's also to cut down a tree for no reason. I dikla the toy and kava osir lemekatzaya. So therefore, I'm not going to cut it down because there's no. I'm not doing the mazik. Since I'm not doing mazik, so therefore I have no reshus to cut it down, because you can't cut down a tree stem. But according to you, you've picked up this whole thing. This here is a chiddush of Rav Yosef that Rav Chana doesn't hold of. So according to Rav Yosef, this chiddush of ilan lekefanim boin to fei, therefore my dekel is a mazik. Since my dekel is a mazik, you hold that is mutter to cut down. However, I hold I've done enough of a harchaka. I don't hold of this chiddush here, and therefore it's not a mazik, and I can't cut down. So if we have a look at the Ramban here, Hadamri Ana Lekatzea, Kashali, my law, Vaharei hu mazik, mitzvah laharche katatzmo, afilu lahafsid kol ma sheyeshlo, v'yo yisvet chaveru pruta. So Pasha to the Ramban that you can cut down a tree, my law, why can't he cut it down? V'harei hu mazik. Once you're a mazik, any mazik is any time that your tree is a mazik, then you can cut down the tree. Pashut to the Ramban. So that's our first heter to cut down a tree. I'm really just going to see the heterim in this, because so many people are machmir, especially because of this sakana thing that they add to it. So everyone wants to be machmir because they don't want to have sakanas. But we're just going to see the heterim, and then so when someone says it's usher, you'll know which sheet is it going against. So here the Rosh in Bava Basra here, Venera de Hilchasuk Rav Yosef made an Amrle Zil Kutz. So go cut it. The fact that he's saying it, so it seems like this chiddush of Rav Yosef, that's the halacha, even if he's not agreeing to it, and he won't do it himself. It's still it's the halacha will be this chiddush, and then that's also you see in the Gemara it has a little yud there. The halacha is like Rav Yosef. So since he says inichele Likutz, what the Zil Kutz is, but it's here he's telling them that, so if it's like you can, so go cut it. So the Rosh is saying that, yeah, that is the halacha. So the Rambam, Ein Kutzisin Ilani Machel. So here already first you have the tree of food. So therefore if a tree doesn't produce food, so then that's another heter. This is our second heter now, that if it doesn't produce food, then you're allowed to cut it. So, en katz ilani machel. Shechus Medina, outside the Medina, because if it's in the city, so you have different things, because there's reasons inside the city why you might want to cut it down. And don't, here's like, don't kill it through a groma. It's like a murder plot here. So he says here it's anyone who cuts it down, then he makos. Now here the iser, according to the Rambam, is all derech chata. So we have a bit of maklokes. I don't know how much of it we'll see. We're saying what is the iser of cutting down the tree. So the pashtus here, the Rambam is learning that it's bal tashchis. Since it's bal tashchis, so therefore you only are also cutting down the tree in a level of hashchascha. If it's not hashchascha, then it's mutter. So if it's kol koitzis ilan meichel derech hashchascha is like it. So that's where the makos, that's the issue, because it's bal tashchis. Since it's bal tashchis, so therefore you get makos if you cut down the tree. If you cut it down, imhaye mazik ilanos acherim, so there's the din of mazik, or mipnei shemazik besade acherim, or mipnei shedamev yikarim. So okay, here now we have another heter where this is the Gemara in Bava Kama. The Bava Kama there says, Rashi explains that if the wood is worth more than what the fruits produce, so there is the one heter. So lo astra Torah ela derech hashchasha. So again, this is the Rambam is being clear there that it's only in a manner of chashach the bal tashchis. So it's the end of the case of Mishnah here. L'dideis varli the sagi b'hai harchaka lo mekri mazik v'atzer le mekatzaya. So see, this is the So the pshat of Rabbi Bachana, I don't hold that it's a mazik. So because the Mishnah is saying the whole heter of a gemara to cut it down is because it's a mazik. So therefore, if it's not a mazik, then you can't v'asur l'makzeh. Mar t'sfarle the boy harchaka tefei shari l'makzeh. So since you hold that you need more of a harchaka, therefore it's mutter for you to do it, because if it's mazik, it's also v'inichale likutz. So therefore, if you want to do it, therefore you can go and likutz. Now there's a lot of Rishonim who hold even a tree that's mazik is not. It's also to cut it down. So I'm just like showing the ones that do for so. If we look down here at the Tosfos, Ana lo kaitza to Amarav. So im tema v'hatanam b'matnisim the kaitzis v'noitin damim. So Tosfos is asking a question here. Why can't you cut down a tree? So Rav says that it's mutter. He's bringing here the Dama Rav. Rav says it's mutter, but it says in our mission, this is the first one we did on Chavhei, that the kaitzis v'noitin damim, that if the tree comes after the bore, since the tree's after the bore, so therefore you can cut it down and you give the money. So it's in the first Mishnah that you're cutting down the tree. So v'yishlomer de ika le'ukmi be'ilan sorok. So Tosfos here says, I would say, again, the way that we're learning, the way the Kesef Mishnah has just explained it, is that's when the tree is mazik, you cut it down. And the whole reason that Rabbi Bachana won't cut it down is because he holds that it's not a mazik. Because he didn't have harchaka, but according to you hold it as a mazik. That's how, but Tosfos is saying, no, it's nothing to do with that. This is an Eilan Sarek. We saw it in the Rambam, that if it's not if it's only a fruit tree is also to cut down, so therefore this Eilan Sarek, that's how Tosfos says it. The whole reason and it is a huge ukimta in our Mishnah over there with the boar, is that's an Eilan Sarek. Why the hell is it an Eilan Sarek? And so if it has a fruit tree, so then what? If I've come on fruit tree and I plant it after you do the boar, I'm just maziking you. Off we go. Sorry, Scott, and nothing we can do. So Tosfos doesn't hold of this whole, if the tree's mazikin, then you can cut it down. Aval kasha damrin b'hachoyvel gabihanhu dikli de mashchichi b'gufani. So you have the dekel is attacking or weakening the gefen. So he says to him, Shmuel says, go and bring me the roots tomorrow. So we see that Shmuel's cutting it down. So it tastes like a kasha and Tosfos that it's mazik. Why are you allowed to cut it down because it's mazik? There's no such thing as Tosfos. Alma mishum hezek gefana mutter lekutz to call him a big kasha of Tosfos. Yesh lefaresh the shiny hasam. No, it's not mazik. It's tiny hasam. The yoiter medai have a mechakshim begefanim. Ada have a time behu time of dechamra. That a high level of mazik. Tosfos is matter when there's a high level of mazik where the what is it? The dekel. There's like a date flavor in the wine. Now, if you read the back on the labels of the wine today, it says with hints of blackberry and cherry, and so Tosfos says, cut down those cherry trees, and they shouldn't have the flavor of that in the wine. But seemingly, if I put like date flavor in my wine, it would be a selling point. But Tosfos says that's a big mazik. So you can cut it down. So Tosfos here is holding that's a big mazik is where you can cut them down, but for again all the other Rishonim we said that once the tree's mazik is mutter and you can cut it. So this is a kuvit שעורים. Tosfos v'had tetan kaitzis and tzarek v'abeilan Michael afilu makom t'chayiv l'harki lo yikutz. The Haramban says the Heka the Chayev leharchik mishum mazik afilu yafsud kol mashi yeshlo the lo yisod chavera prutas. We saw that the had amar law. So we have a maklokas here, a partial maklokas between the Ramban and Tosfos. So it came into Asr lachashchis gam shelo imkain ein ha iser mishum. The Gaza, Ele Isser Gradehu, Ma Chazis Letucho Isser Zem, if may Isser Mazik. So Tosfos is learning, you have the Isser Mazik, and then you have the Isser of cutting down the tree. So why does one push off the other? So this is how he's going to explain the svara of Tosfos. Why, if your tree is mazik, are you allowed to keep it there? So because you have two isurim, ze versus ze, so therefore you have a sheva al tasa is adif, and therefore sit and don't do anything, don't cut down the tree, because you have the isur of mazik, but you also have the isur of cutting down the tree, and then that would be the svara of Tosfos. So the kitzer in the Rosh in Bava Kama comes out with v'chein im hayet tzarich l'makomo nearer demutter. So now we have another heter of the Rosh. After going through the sugya there, where it says you can't cut them down, the Rosh then has a heter at the end of v'chein im hayet tzarich l'makomo nearer demutter. So if I need the makom, so you have the poshet pshat of the shaila would be, can I cut down a tree and build a house there? So the posh pshat there, I'll use the Rosh and say that it's mutter. Now a lot of people are going to argue on this heter of the Rosh or how to understand it on the Rosh, but here is the words of the Rosh saying that if you need the tree, then it's mutter. Just as a side point here, the Mishnah Melech, a different Rambam, if the question as to whether can you just cut the branches? Demai de asr mishum lo tashchis, that's bal tashchis, that's what Rambam holds. Ena ela lekatzois ha'ila and atzmo misharshav. You have to uproot the whole tree. Aval lekatzois anafim, just the branches. V'cheros lo yedati heichet the ramim ze asr zeh. So he doesn't necessarily say this. It's the Great Mother. He says I haven't found any place to be asr in it. So when we're talking about it's also to cut down a tree, it's also to cut the whole tree down. Now other people say again that the branches are a problem. You find everyone arguing on every point here, but here would be a heter for the Mishnah Lamelech that again it's only if you want to uproot the tree. So therefore, according to the Rosh, now if I want to uproot the tree and build a house there, so that would be mutter. So here the Taz, and it's on the Bechlal al Tishkatsu. So Ketzav Harosh Hamakein im Hayet Zarach Lemakomo Mutter at kan lashomu mizer heterti. So this is the Taz given a heter. The echad shahaya lo karka im ilano. So he had land with trees. Lakotz elianos afal pishi ish behem peros. Even they had. So this is a fruit tree. He can take it down. They live not bias dira aliyah aliyah. So there Taz brings down the Rosh in order to have the heter. So you have a field of trees with fruit bearing trees, and he can still to build a house there. It would be mutter. That's the first heter of the Taz, and then they all jump on the Taz and say that it's not there's no heter. But this is the heter of the Taz. But later Meforshim say he's not understanding the Rosh correctly, and that was in some of the other ones that I gave you. So the Aruch HaShulchan. Coming down into the halacha, amna medina im tzarich. This is Michael Osram in the Torah. V'chazal amru sheish gam sakana b'zeh. So again, this is bringing back the sakana. Ish mi shemachmir af b'tzarich le'makomo. Amna medina im tzarich le'makomo mutter. I mean, there's a halacha, but again, it's all again if you don't have to cut it down, you're machmir, and if you have to cut it down, so you can make it. Again, in mafil al chalanos. So here, if a tree is darkening you, there's also a heter here now. Because shekein she'en kapeda b'katzisas hanafim, just cutting down the branches. V'dafka k'sharak lemokomo levanenim aval harchiv lito ba'alma ein lekutsos. So he's saying here you can't even cut down the anafim, just to have more space in your garden or your park. So in the Yevia Omer, so he brings down the shuts of the Yavitz, which is Yonatan Eibshitz. Yetzer ledom b'darach chadash, she'afilu b'ma'ula b'damim, so it's expensive, or b'tzarach lemokomo deshari me'ikar edin lekos mekomokom also mishum sakana. So then this is the Yavitz saying that even if you have the heterim, and this again coming back from the Gemara, where he's saying that Rav says it's osir, and the guy died from cutting it. So even if you have a heter to cut it, now this is a big chiddush of the yards, because most people say there's no sakana once it's mutter to cut. And the Yavit says, even though you got a maker a din, it's mutter to cut it. There's still a din sakana. Shakshi bahata racham lo shachiv shavri bari ele dekets te ene below zamna. The havadai, it was a tamachachim. V'chas v'chalila the over alav deraisa. So why is he cutting down the tree below zmana? If it was, so therefore we see the fact that he died, this big tzaddik died. Obviously he was doing it because it was mazik. He had a heter to cut it down. Even though he cut it down, it was still sakana. V'komakim amrach lo shachiv ele mishum dekatz, because he cut it down. Yeah, so he only died because he cut it down. Muchach the chassid gadol hayed. There's no other reason why he was why he would have died. V'lo nimsa bo shum avon acher ki b'chatul meis, in his sin he died of cutting down the tree. So here, even though it's mutter, it's still a sakana, because and that he, even though it was a heter, he shouldn't have done it, and therefore the tzaddikim, they get punished. So for other people, it would still be mutter, and there's no sakana for a normal person. He gives two answers in again. I gave you that to Teshuva. But he gives two answers. One is therefore for a normal person is no sakana. It's only the big tzaddikim like Moshe Rabbeinu who gets punished for hitting rocks. But you can hit a rock, it's okay. Or he says no taka if everybody hits a sakana. V'lechein nirali de mayri shehaya ma'ula b'damim or shesarach lemokomo haya shemotzor lokos medina. So it had to be a heter medina to cut down this tree. Ach ein ze mishnat chasidim don't do v'lechichasid haya nesuf below. He was taken before his time. Afagav de lechol adam sharin. And again, this is taken on a in older Jewish areas as opposed to, I don't know how many Baal Teshuvas care, but in other areas that grow up with this stuff, it's become a hoodoo that you don't cut trees down. And again, this is the idea of the sakana. Even if it's mutter, it's still a din sakana, so people won't do it. Again, this is all in the Teshuvah. There's also a sakana for everybody. It's just the Baal Tashchis is not, you don't get a din of Baal Tashchis when it's expensive or when the wood is more. That's what the Gemara over there was saying. It's no din of Baal Tashchis. As it says per Eletrefus, Muteris Mishum Trefus, or also Mishum Sakana. So that there's a din of Choshe Mishpat or a din of Yora, and that's mutter, but there's still sakana. I'm not going to do it because it's a sakana. Well, then why is he giving the sakana to someone else? Whatever. Oh, but that doesn't. So, according to the Yibi'omer, according to Rav Yosef, it's Eina Mechur Klal. He doesn't agree with this. So Chada de Havelele Ravina the first Behedia the Mekom also Mishum Sakana. Ravina should have said clearly this is also because it's Sakana. Mkoshakein Shehamoirit Sarach Lefresh Div Rav Yoter Min a Brisa. So the Brisa says it's mutter. So therefore the Moira has to come and say things more than the Brisa. Vod Kasha She'echa Rambam V'Hasmag Stamu Divrehim Lahater LaHalacha. Rambam says it's mutter. As long as you don't do it der Chachasha, it's mutter. But they're just trying to trick everyone into this sakana. For Hitzker Klau, she's sakana b'davar. But can rush for Rabbeinu Yeruchim, Posku b'sakana, Charifa, Leheter, Kashasarach Lamukom. He just says that you can, if it's Sarach Mukom, it's mutter. So therefore, he's so he's saying that it's all sounding nice in the Yavitz, but no, he disagrees with it all. And so here he's given a reason why he died, the tzaddik died, because he thought that it was time for the fig tree to be cut. So he made a mistake in the time. He thought the time was right. So maybe somewhere else here saying that it was something to do with Shemitah. And in Shemitah, it wasn't time to cut it. And even though this year wasn't Shemitah, it means Chasidus to do it. So it's just at the end, he has a soft dover here. But he kind of goes machmer. Soft dover, hakol nishma. שהעיקר להלכה שמותר לקוץ אילני מייכל כדי להרחיב דירתו, אשר היא כיום dachuk. So if you have a dira that is dachuk, it's difficult to live in, so therefore it's mutter to cut down the tree. If it's dachuk and mitzumetzes, it's difficult for the whole family. With the children, that they should all live. Ve'ein bezeh chashash lekana klal. So there's nocha. Ve'ad ve'altzad a heter tov nachol l'skor goy l'katzos elino. So this is another. It's not that people have another maklokas. Is that just get a goy to do it? Now, if a goy does it, well, maybe he's your shaliach, and he's saying no because when you pay a poil works for himself. So they say again, how machmir you're going to do? Even if a goy does it, he's just doing it for you, so there's no difference. Yes, there is a difference, but they say the best thing is to get the goy to cut it down and then pay him afterwards. Don't pay him beforehand. Tell him to cut it down, and after he cuts it down, then pay him. So he's less of a shaliach of yours. But as a poil, he's working for himself. So he works for himself. He's cutting it down. So, but here, if he's making, his ground bigger just for walking around, or lenoi velofi, if it's for nice and make your house nicer, so that's the Rav Avadia. He's only allowing it for various reasons, but other reasons no. Again, there are other heterim, and you get basically at all these different points. There's a maklokes, and so people come out and say it's a sakana. Seemingly, I don't know. There's enough to say that again, as long as you need the place or there's some type of benefit from it, and you're not. I mean, the most makel way to understand it would be that if it's a bal tashchis, then it's aser. If it's not bal tashchis, then it's mutter, and there's no sakana. When you're doing the bal tashchis, therefore it's a level of sakana, and that once you're getting benefit more than you're losing of the tree, so therefore it's not bal tashchis, because as long as there's a something that's coming out of you destroying the tree, so therefore it's not bal tashchis. But on this thing, you can go as machmir as you want, and you can be as superstitious as you want. But that's some of the kulas in cutting trees.